so excited to be here with you all, whether you're watching, I think we're recording this. Yes, we are. So whether you're watching the recording, you're here with us live. Hello, hello. I'm Alyssa Nicoll. I am an ng-conf MC. I'm a GDE, and I'm a developer advocate at Progress. And so I'm very excited to be here with my cohort in crime, coding crime, that is, Stephanie. Do you want to introduce yourself, Stephanie?
Yeah. Hello. As you've already heard, my name is Stephanie. I am leading I'm leading the Kendo Angular team. This is my first time being a panelist at the webinar. This is a new area for me, and I'm really thankful that Lisa invited me. Thank you. Yeah.
I'm gonna drag you into all kinds of shenanigans. So I'm very glad to have you. So there are some new things in Angular, as you may or may not have heard. And we only have an hour today. So as much as I'd love to cover all of the new things, I'm going to zoom in and give detailed examples of some of the new Angular features in action. Specifically, we're going to focus on standalone, but we will touch on things like control flow and defers as well. So we're going to look at the standalone story from not only a developer's perspective who's like writing an application, but also from like an author's perspective of we're creating a library for other developers to consume. And so Stephanie and I have been talking about our own story as Kendo UI and how we basically how we adopt new features and the pace that we do that. We actually have a poll I would love to put up for you guys to find out. We'd love to know what version of Angular you're on. And you can select multiple versions if you have multiple applications. And then also the cadence that you update and you upgrade, because there's what's the state of your Angular app? And yes, I did put all 17 on there. You're welcome for that. Just because I'm super curious, because Stephanie, you said that we put a poll on our website, and the third most popular option was it older than 11 or older than 12?
Older than 13, which was really surprising because 13 is already, I don't know, a couple or more years ago.
Yeah, no, I was surprised too. And so we were like, if there's like a third of the people or whatever the percentage was that are on 13 or lower, what are they on, right? Like where are they hung up? And so, yeah, I would love to see your answers. And then we're just also curious on how often your team prioritizes upgrading, because as library creators, we are going through this own struggle internally of like, what should our cadence be? Because we want the new features. We want to be more performant and more aligned with the latest. But at the same time, we want to be compatible with the majority of our users and not deprecate things too quickly. But with that in mind, Stephanie has come up with kind of a hybrid solution that we'll get into in a minute for standalone that can hopefully both push us forward with standalone while also still allowing us to have users that have modules. And so I'm very excited to talk about that side of it, and that's what she'll be demoing for us. But I will be demoing the developer users side today, and just using some Kendo UI components to show off some fun features and just play around with Angular. So did we, I know the poll is still up. I don't know if we like end it and like get a poll answers chart, if that's a thing. Maybe 30% on Angular 17, 20% on 16, 50 on 15. Okay. This is super. And then 10% on 9, which is interesting. I wonder if there was do you remember, Stephanie, was there a big shift from 9 to 10? Honestly, I don't remember that far. I'm wondering if there was something.
I don't remember. I honestly don't remember.
And then for the second question, 50% of people say we try and stay current with the latest Angular releases that are production stable. Whereas the other 25% were split between we'd love to keep up with the latest, but it's not a priority. It's not often a priority, or we don't prioritize staying up at all. So very, very cool. Thank you all for answering that.
Yeah.
It's very enlightening as
yeah, definitely.
No, I'm like, interesting. Okay, so let's share. I'm going to share my screen. And do you see all the bits? I have a test Angular application up.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got it. Awesome. And then terminal, and forgive me for my light mode. Let me know, Stephanie, if anyone has questions or anything. And I'm just going to dive right in. So many Angular developers haven't committed to standalone just yet, or perhaps even haven't had a chance to explore its features, what it means for like the Angular architecture overall of your applications. So we're going to talk a little bit about this while fleshing out the beginnings of an app together. And then I'm going to fast forward just so that we can look at some other components and features as well. With the latest changes to the framework, the Angular team has done a great job in reducing the number of like files and boilerplate code in our applications, but it is a little bit different now. Things look a little bit different. We're gonna do routes differently. We're not gonna have modules. So where do those things go? So let's peek at our new moduleless architecture. Most things that were previously managed in app module or router module are now a part of a file called appconfig.ts. So here I'm going to put this like full screen and go to our appconfig.ts file of goodness. By default, this file includes provide router function, which provides everything necessary for routing, as well as additional feature services. The app component file, right above it, right here, includes the standalone flag set to true. So currently that is needed. I do one day anticipate this to be reversed, where standalone is just inferred and you would maybe have to specify if you need modules. But this standalone flag means it does not need to be registered into a module. If it needs to, it can still import existing modules, directives, and pipes, which is really important right now because, as you would anticipate, the entire community as one didn't just leap off a cliff and say, no more modules, right? There's still things that we have to utilize that have them. So if you do make the switch, whether it's per application basis or whether it's just per component by component basis, you can still utilize things that have modules. Let's fast forward and talk about so components have two main ways. Let me actually see. I'm going to fast forward us to this. This is going to be the end. I'm making a little coffee shop for you all, or a website, excuse me, for a coffee shop. And if we go here, you'll see that I have imports for things that I've been importing. There's actually two things here. You can do imports or you can do provide here. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about the differences between the two. Imports, as you can see based on some of the things that I've imported, that's everything related to HTML or a template, directives, pipes, components, things like that. Whereas provide would be for specifying services or classes that you're going to need. So yes, let's practice using modules in a standalone application. So this is my test application. I just didn't want to, she's very bare bones. I just didn't want to generate a new application while we were live, because I don't know why. The last time I did it, I was like staring at my terminal window. I was like, this should not take this long. So I just wanted to make sure we didn't have any hiccups, but I don't think I've done much of anything in this application. It's just a new application. And if we look at, I think 17.2 is what we're on. So just a new up-to-date application that is standalone by default. So we're going to go to my terminal and just double checking on time to make sure. So what I want to do is talk a little bit about some of the things that changed with standalone. For instance, like routing is a little bit different now. So let's add Kendo UI Angular navigation so that we can have our like anchor routes at the top of our app in something called an app bar. Now, in order to do that, we're going to do our CLI command, ng-add at progress Kendo Angular navigation, and I can make this chunkier as well. I like to mention, where is my Arc tab? I'm using the Arc browser. She's super sexy. If you don't know about it, you should definitely check it out. But yes, if I go to our docs and I'm going to put that on, sorry, loves, I need Zoom sometimes takes over and I couldn't see part of the screen. So I want to show our components over here just to kind of give a brief overview, because sometimes people are like, I don't know how to download or how to like get that component into my application. So we have on the side these groups of components, the packages that they're packaged in. I like to call them the mama wrappers. And so for instance, we need the app bar. So we're going to go down to navigation, and on the, sorry, navigation on the getting started page, that's where you can find your installation setup, whether it's with the CLI or whether it's the manual setup. But this also shows, if we go to, sorry, I'm super zoomed in. I'm going to zoom out a little bit, but let me know if I need to go back and I can. So this shows what the navigation package has in it. It has app bar, bottom nav, breadcrumbs, action sheets. And so we are going to go into our terminal. We're going to add Angular navigation. Yes, I am on an odd number of node. Should I be? No, I'll fix it later. Yes, we do want to go ahead and install that package. Stephanie's like, how could you? I know. Okay. So we are going to install that, and then just while that's installing, we're going to go, you saw it pop into our package JSON. So we're going to go into our app component because we've installed it, but we now need to let our application know about it. So we currently in Kendo UI, and Stephanie's going to talk about this in a second, have modules still. So in order to use our navigation module, we need to go ahead and import it. And if I start typing, it might. Sometimes it's like, did you want this thing? And I'm like, yes, of course. And I'm going to import that from Kendo Angular navigation. And so now our application has access to that and we can use it. And I'm going to just real quick, again, because it's an hour, I was like, I'm going to have some code snippets ready. So in our app component, we're going to get rid of the cruft and we're just going to paste in the Kendo app bar. It's like, who is this router link? I know no such person. So that's when Alyssa's like, oh, I'm sure I need to go ahead and like import router link so that it knows such a person. And now it's not yelling at us anymore and it's very happy. So we have our app bar, which is just a top navigation bar that gives us access to create like groupings of sections, things like spacers. Let's go and see. Let's see her in action. Where is our terminal? Not as beautiful as she could be because I've done literally zero styling. But by default, let's see, I'm going to put separator, boop, boop, boop. Actually, let me go to, because I don't want to spend too much time showing this part, but we're going to start, let's do 2 servers because we can. I'm going to serve the Kendo Coffee Shop one that is the more fast-forwarded version of this. And we'll build it. It says ports already in use. Let's build it at a different one. So we're going to go back to our terminal, or excuse me, our browser and type in the longer one. So here I have styled it a little bit, and this is the same bar, but it's using our coffee shop styles. And so if I go and open U, and we go to our CSS, which is Sassy CSS. I mainly use it just for nesting. Now that nesting is like becoming native with CSS, I don't know if I'll ever use Sass again, quite honestly. But here you'll see I'm just doing some basic things like giving it a background color. I created this fun keyframe with the rainbow for on hover. But one really cool thing about our components is they're themable out of the box. They come with like Bootstrap or Material. And so you can say, okay, we already use Bootstrap or we already use Material. And there's a third one. What was the third? Do you remember, Stephanie? I'm like blanking on the third theme.
We also have the Fluent team.
Fluent! Your brain is beautiful. And so if by default your team has already used those components, but perhaps the library wasn't vast enough, didn't have enough for you, you can go ahead and say, yes, style all of my Kendo components like this, and it will fit with your application. We also have a lot of theming options so that you can plug in your company's styles, and with variables, and things will just update as you include the different components in. Because we have over 110 of, yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to add that we also have the swatches. I don't know if you have checked them out recently, but they are really cool because you have the theme, but you can just choose different colors.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Because I think the very next thing, because you can screen share, stop sharing, because I wanted you to talk about a little bit the flip side of it, because this was just an example of how do we use Kendo UI right now in a standalone application.
Yeah.
And I was hoping you could talk to us a little bit about maybe what the future of using Kendo UI would look like.
Yeah, sure. But before I just share my screen, let me just give a little bit of context. So, as a library, we aim to provide support for clients that are still using not the latest Angular version. And this has limited us throughout time to not really be able to adopt all of the new and cool features right away as Angular has introduced them, because we need to catch up in some versions. And we have already announced that this May, with our next Q release, we are going to be dropping the support for Angular versions 13 and 14. So this will give us the opportunity to catch up with the whole standalone hype and be able to do something internally in the library about it. And this is something that I have been experimenting and playing with in the past week or so. And it turns out to be a really nice and cool thing to do. Let me just share my screen before I continue talking. Okay. Let me know if
I see the code. Okay? Yes, it looks great.
Yeah, so I decided to show you the GitHub preview because it gives a really nice comparison of how things were until now and what it could be. I'm saying it could be because this is still some sort of proof of concept. It's not live, but in May and later we will be able to do something like this. This will bring the library closer to providing a true standalone support. And the clients will have the benefits from it. I mean, up until now, yes, you can have your modules imported in standalone components, but there is also a better way. And what I mean by this is that instead of importing an entire module, and I have chose as an example the cart module, which gives you the cart component, instead of importing the entire module and dealing with it, you could just import the needed directives and components, and if there are services as well. What is the way to do this? Here is the cart module. This is how it looked up until now. It imports in itself, again, the common module, which goes, deeper in it. We have other more complex components that import further modules, and it goes down the rabbit hole. You know how that goes. So what could be done in this scenario? All of these nice and good directives, components, everything, it could just be exported separately, like it is here, as I have called it card directives constant. I mean, it's just a work in progress name anyways. And then this constant can be imported directly into the standalone component. You don't need any modules, and this is really cool because you don't have to deal with it. Yeah, here at the top is some sort of the example that I have put up. Previously, it had imported the layout module, which holds in itself the cart module. But then again, if we go through that change, you could just import cart directives, no module for you. We also wouldn't like to break existing implementations, and the plan is for backwards compatibility to also keep having the module exported. Sorry, that's why you see that it's not deleted entirely, and having both. I mean, I call it best of both worlds because you could choose. You could continue importing the module, have everything you need. But if you want to go entirely standalone, you can just import the needed directives. And this will bring you closer to having the benefits of true standalone. Inside the card component itself, for example, something similar that you showed in your demo, there is an imports part that you can put there. For example, if you're going to use the ng-if directive or ng-for directive, you can import only those. You don't have to import the entire common module anymore. Or if you're going to use some sort of forms binding, you can just import form control or form group or the thing that you just need. There is no need to import everything. And internally, this will lighten our components, which means that in turn, this will lighten your application as well. Yeah. So I think that's really cool.
I love it. I'm so excited for it. And honestly, I think you could just ship card directives. I think it's the perfect name.
Yeah, it just doesn't stop there, you know. There are so many more components and dependencies between them are so deep that it's a really intricate, precise surgical procedure.
I bet. Honestly, I think it's important to move forward with standalone, but I also understand this is going to be a process like of years for our community to eventually get to a point where people are like, what's a module, right? I think that day will come, but I think it's going to be a long time for everyone to get there. So
yeah, maybe. And what would be really cool is I also plan to have some sort of comparison statistics, see how the bundle size changes when we have that transition, and like being able to really prove, yeah, see this one is better, see how things are shaping up, because that would be really interesting. That's why we are doing things actually, to have not only better understanding and easier usage and integration, but for the performance and lightweight applications and so on.
Yeah, there's so many new features right now that I'm impressed they hit both marks of a better developer experience as well as being like more performant. So I'm like, wow, how did they manage this balance? So I'm very excited for the direction we're going. So thank you for showing us that, Stefani. I love it.
Thank you.
All right, I am going to screen share again. Please let us know if you have any questions. We can talk about, because I'm going to keep moving forward with our demo application and building it out. And I'm going to talk to you about some of the new features and the new standalone ways of doing things. But if you have a rabbit hole you'd like us to go down or a specific question for Kendo UI, let us know. And we will either get you the answer on air or we'll reach out afterwards. So I am going to put you over here on the left, and I'm going to put the code over on the right. And we're gonna leave the test application behind because we're halfway through already. We powered through that for 30 minutes. So we're going to fast forward a little bit, but I'm going to talk you through some of the pieces that we would have built out from scratch. So the first thing I was going to do is have us generate the home and the products page with ng. Well, at least I use the CLI commands of ngc and then say pages/home or pages/products. If we go to boop, 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 the app.routes, I'm going to make this chunkier. Here you'll see our routes that I've already wired up, pointing to each path, and configuring our routes. In standalone applications, we no longer have the router module. So to configure our routes, we do this in app config, which I mentioned earlier. I think I mentioned that earlier. Yes, I did. But I think in the other one, it was a little bit simpler. So now the two routes that we've configured will load when we're navigated to inside of the router outlet element, because we have A, created those routes in app.routes, and then B, we've configured those inside of app config. And let's see, forgive me, I want to fast forward to the HTTP client. Before standalone, we would access the HTTP client with the HTTP client module. Now that modules are out, we use provide HTTP client function in our app config. And so I'm going to move this over a little bit so I can see it. It was behind Zoom. So here you'll see we're not only configuring our routes here, but we are utilizing provide HTTP client here in our app config. It's all TypeScript file. So this gives us access to HTTP client by using the inject function. And for this app, we're going to use this API that I found called Fake Coffee API, which I was like, amazing, because I was making a coffee shop and this thing existed on GitHub. So let me go to, I think I put a backup just in case like everything, I'm going to knock on wood, like crashed and like the API no longer worked. I was like, let's get a backup of our JSON. Why don't we? But if I go to our product component, you can see the structure of our data here. Just things like a description, a price, a region for these coffees. And I think, I wanted to note that the use of the currency pipe on the price field. So yes, we're going to, whenever we put price in on the template, we're going to use the currency pipe. So let's go ahead and show that off. Oh yes, I wanted to show the actual, if maybe you too are interested in making a fake coffee shop. So we're going to put this at full screen. So this.http.get fake coffee shop, right? I have HTTP client that I'm injecting, and I have the import up here. Everything's making sense, jigging along. So time for some Kendo cards because we have our data, but we need to display it somehow. And so I'm going to have a couple steps here. The first one, we would do ng-add, and I'm going to just paste the command. I've already done this in this application, but we would do ng-add and get Kendo Angular layout. And that has, I think it's 8, 9, 10, 11 components in that package. And one of those is the card component, which Stephanie showed the inner workings of, but let's actually use the card component. So, I'm going to go down and I'm just going to, let me know in chat, have you used or played around with the new control flow? In Angular, there's now a built-in control flow with things like for loop or with things like defers, which kind of is part of control flow. But let me know if you've used it at all, because I'm going to go ahead and create a for loop, and we're going to loop through the products that we are getting. So if I go back to our TypeScript file, you'll see here, I'm just setting products and using Signal, actually, which is new as well. There's so many new things. It can be a bit overwhelming. And if you too are overwhelmed, I just encourage you to try just one thing, right? Like maybe make one component a standalone component, or maybe make one observable a signal, right? And just like try, because it can be overwhelming. But we have our products. That is a signal. I'm getting it from our fake coffee shop API. So here we can use the @for in our template to loop through product of products. But I want to point out this track. So we're tracking by the index. That is a requirement. It's needed for the loop to work. And it's actually because of performance reasons. I was talking with the team and the need for that. And it was apparently the Angular team builds certain things in just to keep people from shooting themselves in the foot. And so they were like, this is one of those moments where we're like, we're going to make you conscious of what you're tracking and how this loop is working. I was tracking by product ID, which works, but I actually talked with, who was it? Sander. I talked with Sander Elias, and he was saying that in a lot of cases, tracking by index can be more performant. There are times when you would need to loop over something or track by something like the product ID. But in this case, we can get away with index and it is more performant. We only have I don't know, 20 or 30 products, maybe not even that. So obviously this performance, it's not going to matter here, but we have a grid component and I've seen it deal with so many thousands of lines of data. And so in certain cases, how you're looping and how you're tracking does matter. So yeah, I just wanted to call that out. Let's see if my cards are showing on our product page. Go click on products. Absolutely not. I love it. Oh, there it goes. Awesome. I love that this was the issue. So the API is actually a little slow. I did not slow that down for you. But that's kind of a problem, right? And that was kind of the next thing I was hoping to highlight. So first things first, we are going to address styling. One thing I love, whenever I first joined the team, they asked me if I was interested, and I actually had a project where I was responsible for removing Bootstrap from a large application, and it was extremely painful. And I even at certain points when I needed to do something really custom, Bootstrap was just either overly generic or overly specific, and so my custom CSS was like 12 selectors long, and it was just really gross. And so when Progress approached me and they were like, we think you would be a great advocate for us, I had to try out Kendo UI because I was like, I need to know how is it like to work with these components and writing styles. I have never had to use an important tag. I've never had to use 12 selectors. And the API surface of the components are actually quite friendly for selecting things. So for our products, I'm actually going to go into styles because later on I have a skeleton card as well that will use these. And so I'm going to uncomment these universal styles here. And I'm just calling out KCard. That's a class that Kendo UI surfaces on the Kendo card that I can use as well. And then KHstack, HStack for horizontal stack. Let's go to we're going to save this real quick and go back to our product. Projects come back to us. So you'll see here on the footer, Kendo card footer, that I gave it the class of HStack because I wanted it to be a horizontal, like a row, essentially like a flex row. But you can say KVstack in order to make it a vertical stack. So in those styles, I was just calling out that stack and giving it directions for how to align those items. And then, of course, make my price chunky. So here you'll see our styles that are a little bit more. I'm going to put this on the right side again and make my nav not so chunky. There we go. So here you'll see our cards. They're a little bit more cleaned up, but it's the same cards with the same structure. And I mean, it was just like this much, right? Like just to get the box shadow that our company demands we have, right? Or to align this price item. Let me show you actually, because I had added, that's actually going to come in key in 1 second. So on refresh or initial load, really it was initial load, it was a longer call, right? To get our products. So something that is super fun that we can do is for loop actually offers an empty block. And so we can say when our for loop is empty, so we're going to go back to products. No, sure. I want my HTML, please. Thank you. With the for loop, you can actually use an empty block. And I here put the Kendo loader, which is a spinner, and this paragraph of products are missing. It looks like they took a break. And so that's all fine and good. It's much better than absolutely nothing showing. But there's actually defers, which I like to use here instead, because we can essentially wrap all of this content in a defer. And what time is it? 39? Yeah, we're okay. We're okay. We're not sweating it just yet. I was like, we can switch over to the main branch if we need to. Okay.
You're
So
doing really great with time. You're showing awesome
awesome.
things.
Awesome. Thanks. I'm like, oh, don't go over time. We got this. Okay. So we can wrap anything in a defer. Defer content can be for multiple reasons. Maybe the content is too chunky. I found out recently at a conference that not everyone has been to the new Angular website. And so I'm going to go and show they rebuilt the docs at angular.dev. And I'm just going to go to the homepage real quick. And something that they used, you can actually go to GitHub, pull up the docs because they used signals. They used defers. They used standalone in building the docs because not only did they want a new place for Angular 17 and up to live, but they wanted to give a demo application that you could see this is the way the Angular team would utilize this feature or would architect this thing. So one thing that I know they deferred, if we scroll and you go keep scrolling, they deferred the loading. See, you'll see this is booting of this example at the very bottom of the docs page because they didn't want that to hit on the initial load of the website. And so there's sometimes that you have something, whether it's a chunky demo, whether it's like a large image gallery, and you don't, until they hover over that image gallery, you don't want to start loading all 200 images. Whatever the thing is, sometimes you want to defer content. So we're going to go back to, this is actually a fun little, I clicked on something and I don't know. Okay, sorry. We're going to go back to was not 4,200. We were at 56952, a very easy URL to remember. So these are our products. We're going to scale down a little bit so we can see our code as well. So whatever the reason is, sometimes you need to defer content and just wrap it in a defer block. But along with defer comes things like placeholder and loading. So here I'm going to go ahead and put a loading block. And for now, I'm just going to comment out empty so that we can see placeholder content that was happening, which is not amazing, mind-blowing. But what is great about this is while the deferred, there's two things. Let's get, I'm going to copy. Yeah, that's going to be the best way. I was trying to think of which way to show you. So in the docs, you can read all about placeholder and you can read about loading. Placeholder is going to be during the deferred time, right? So I think in the Angular docs example, it's going to defer until the demo is in the viewport. So during that entire scrolling down there at the bottom, whatever placeholder they denoted would be showing. Loading then pops in whenever the loading initializes until the content above is loaded in the deferred block. So here, this is a really cool place to utilize something like a skeleton component, which is one of my ultimate favorite, most happy time components. Whenever we got the skeleton component, I was overjoyed, Stephanie. You wouldn't believe how it was like a kid in a candy. So I was like, we have a skeleton.
Yeah, it was about time.
I was a little too excited about it. But so here I'm gonna use, I think I pasted or copied too much. Too many Kendo cards? No, I need a wrapping Kendo card over the top. Let's see. Yes, I do have it. I have it for you. And I just specify width, so it's nothing magical. But here we're going to put essentially unexpected closing tag. Don't worry, I can clean it up. Oh, you added it for me. Thank you, IDE. Oh, thank you so much. So here we have a single Kendo card that inside of the Kendo card, instead of, because above, right, I had the product name or I had the price. or the image URL. Instead of those things, the skeleton component can be a great place to put things that are loading. So here I put, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to actually copy all of this and take it out of the loading block and put it like right above our for loop, just so that we can see it all the times, forevermore, right next to the content. So here, this is each of these loading looking gray boxes are skeletons. So there's the text skeleton, there's the rectangle one for images or for other large content blocks, and then there's also a spherical one, circle. I'm like, what's the word for something that's round? That was real bad. That was Stephanie's like, woof. So sometimes you have an avatar, for instance, that needs to load in. And so you'd use a circle skeleton. Would like to note that there are, I think there's just 2 animations right now. So you can say burp, pulse instead of wave. And so it just alters the animation of the skeleton while it's in existence. So yes, this is a brief peek at the skeleton component being wrapped. Let me go ahead and delete that one so that we can see it. But we can do a little bit better, right? Because you don't just want one card. We're going to want a couple cards. So what I went ahead and did for you is I generated, which I should have done this for the card component as well, just made my own card component that I import the Kendo UI card component into. It has all of our company's styles for our cards and any like data services and things. And so that way, like it can kind of just go where it's needed and we reuse that. I need to do that. But what I did was the skeleton component, I made a skeleton card. And so what we can do now, it's a very basic, just visual component, is use skeleton card in our loader. So we're going to go back to our products here and say skeleton. You have to be able to spell though. That's part of the problem. And we're going to put like 4 or 5 or however many. And so now it'll look like, look, these content bits above the fold are loading. And I think it's super fun. We're going to maybe make it 5 seconds just so you can see it a little bit longer. There is a couple other attributes on here. For instance, I mentioned a viewport. So we're going to go ahead and put this on main screen, go up to our docs. And I don't know how I crashed the docs because I'm super talented. What did I do? I clicked on something I should not have clicked on that I shall ne'er click on again. I don't know what I did. We're going to look up, what are we even talking about? Defers? What were we just saying? Yes, I want to talk to you about the options because there's a couple of things that I'd mentioned. So we talked about placeholder and we talked about loading. There's also error. The error block is when, this is important to note, someone on Twitter like clarified with me. The error block is when Angular can't load the deferred content, not when the API sends you an error. Like it's 2 separate things. And so, but that's when this error block has failed to load whatever the deferred content is. Maybe they lost internet connection or something during that time. Okay, so triggers, I want to talk about, make it bigger. Here you see on defer. I was just using the default defer block, but you have options that you can say on viewport or on timer, which is really freaking cool. Because for instance, like I mentioned with that code example that they have, you want to wait until it's within the viewport to start loading the inner workings of it. And so I think there's also a when condition that you can put, and then on idle, on interaction, on hover, on immediate, on timer. So there's a lot of different options with defers. And I think it's really, really powerful and something that it's kind of like taking lazy loading to the next step. And so I think if you combine things like we've done today, where we're combining standalone, right? That's going to give you those performance benefits. We're combining things like using control flow and using differs to like lazy load things in or to make the user experience smoother. I think we're honestly going to notice a huge performance boost just as an Angular community as a whole. I'm really excited for the direction that we're going. Let's see. I think we talked about the pulse and the wave animations on this guy. On our skeleton component. And we talked about the circle shape as well, if you need that. So, boop, boop, boop. Yeah, I think we are through most of the content. I have a couple other things that I wanted to talk about, but I want to see, is there any questions or any comments in the chat? Anything we wanted to? Nobody? Everyone's quiet.
Yeah, everyone's quiet. No
So
questions, no comments yet.
No worries, no worries. All right. So, let's see. I wanted to talk about ng-conf. I'm very excited. I'll be there. I couldn't convince Stefani this year. Next year, I'm gonna try to I could not convince Stefani to be there, but I'll be at ng-conf.
When I get a little bit more experience,
I'm like more of like a deep end person, like just forcibly push the person into the deep end. So I'll be at ng-conf next week emceeing, and something exciting is that Progress joined forces with Hero Devs to give you 50% off your ticket. And that's whether you're in-person ticket or whether you're online ticket. So the promo code is actually Kendo UI. I'm gonna like put it. We're gonna use the code editor to. So it's literally just sorry, I'm gonna make it Kendo UI. One word, Kendo UI, and that'll get you 50% off your ticket. So if you haven't already, we would absolutely love it if you could come hang out with us or join us online. I'll be doing prizes again for online people as well as in-person people. And speaking of prizes, I have a link to share with you. And I'm gonna I'll pull it up first, and then I think if I just plop it in chat, that'll go out to the masses. And this is in relation to our partnering. Where is chat button? Alyssa, team chat? That doesn't seem right. Thinking, doing.
Here's an idea for future reference. You can use the Kendo UI barcode or QR code component and just have your link send out like that.
We do actually. I'm gonna pull up what you're talking about real quick so people know. And let's see, Kendo UI docs, and then I'm gonna go to barcodes. Stefani was mentioning our barcode component, or our QR code component. Yeah. I would love to have a reason like to actually use a real barcode. Like I feel like that is a level up in life. Yeah, I need to generate barcodes. I don't know why. I'm just like, yes, we have a barcode component. Stefani, what is your favorite component, by the way? Do you have a favorite? I feel like you have to.
I don't, honestly.
I'm over here like skeleton card. I don't know, the list view. She's pretty sexy. Yeah, I mean, there's over 110, so it could be hard to pick.
Yeah, they're really a lot.
Okay, I'm gonna figure out how to use Zoom's chat. I promise. Hang on, let me see. I'm screen sharing, not Q&A. I found it. I was like, I don't want to chat the team, host and panelists. Let's do it to everyone. Okay, so here is a form that we made. We're kind of doing something different at the booth this year at ng-conf. As I mentioned, like with that survey that we asked you, we're really trying to learn more about Angular developers and what they need, more about their design story, how their teams work. And so something that I was super passionate about, I'm really excited. I love that I get to MC, but I'm also sad that I don't get to be at the booth this year because they're going to be kind of combining user interviews almost, where they're asking specific questions about how your design story works and what part of it you fit into. And so in this survey, if you want to fill it out and let us learn a little bit more about you. It's not a very long one. It's like 6 questions. But this was part of Progress and Hero Devs joining up together. And we're giving away 2 different prizes, which are actually pretty legit. The first prize is from, I'm going to scroll down because I have like the value of them as well. So the first prize is from Hero Devs, and it's a migration consultation, which is up to a $5,000 value. And that's for if you have an old version of Angular, Vue, or jQuery that you need help or assistance in migrating and upgrading. And so they are giving away a migration consultation if you fill out this form. You could be one of the lucky winners. And then we are also giving away a DevCraft 1-year license, which includes a lot of products as well as Kendo UI with the 110 components. And I think, Stephanie, correct me if I'm wrong. I think DevCraft, doesn't that cover not just Angular? Like if you want, like, I think DevCraft covers like Vue and jQuery and React and all of
it covers the rest of the web components as well. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yes, that is a really cool. We're giving away those 2 prizes, and we'll be doing the drawing, and you can read about that when the survey closes. And yes, so glad you asked. Oh, can you have a map component? Awesome, Stephanie on the ball, answering questions.
We have one, and it has different layers. So you have the different kind of view.
So I was going to say we have, so it's Kendo map, and then you've got layers. Are the layers? I was going to say, yeah, there they are. Overview of the layers.
In the navigation.
Tile map, shape layer, bubble map layer, and we're definitely going to go look at bubble map because that seems like super. Yeah, that's definitely the one. If you're building out a map, I think you should go with bubble map. No, actually, this gives one of my friends high anxiety because they see that and they think about like Outbreak, and I'm like, okay, well, I was thinking of it more positive of like, look at like the coffee shops per area, like ratio, right? So it doesn't have to be negative if you're bubble mapping. But all right, any other fun questions? Fill out that form, Kendo UI, to get a discount ticket. This has been so much fun. I'm so glad you had me on to talk a little bit about how to use Kendo UI components, getting started with those, using some of the features, and also just the standalone story for Angular and what that means, as well as seeing a little bit of signals and control flow and things. So I think that's all I have for you. If we don't have any more questions, I'm going to stop screen sharing so I can read chat in large form. Sorry again for the high contrast and all of the light modes. I'm very blind. I'm very, very blind. So I need everything to be as big as possible. Awesome. Okay.
Does Kendo cost? Is there a cost for the dev license?
Yeah, we have a free trial that is 1 month, but the DevCraft license that we're giving away in that form is I think is a yearly cost. I think they've played around with the subscription different times. So I was trying to think like if it was monthly, but I'm pretty sure it's just a yearly cost. I don't know the yearly cost though, but it comes with over 110 components. And then we have the full support as well, because our support team is phenomenal, by the way. They all the time, I have friends who are reaching out to them to build out complex scenarios or to integrate components that maybe you wouldn't think about integrating together. And so they'll reach out, and our support team is full of a lot of really cool engineers that can help you build out those cases. So, but yeah, I'm very proud to stand behind this library. It, no shame on Bootstrap, but for me, the user experience is much smoother. I got a lot of shade at one point for hating Bootstrap, so I try to delicately step around that scenario.
On the right side of history, seems like.
Oh, so yeah, I think that's all I have for you if there are no other questions, but thank you so much for having us on, Q. This was a fun webinar.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, really.
This isn't my shop at all, but you know, I'm glad to be the face of the webinars.
No, in my head, it's your shop.
All right. Well, everyone, it was glad to have you guys again, and we'll see you next time.